Those of you who are obstructed by this projector, you may need to move a little bit this side. I'll be writing and drawing something over here. Of course, so those of you who don't want to see me, that's perfectly fine. So, let's begin with this prayer to Lord Narasimhadeva. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. This is the last prayer that Prahlad offers. Is my audio, am I audible to everyone? Yes. Thank you. So, I'll tell the meaning and then we'll recite this. So, Prahlad is a small 5-year-old boy standing in front of this mighty and fearsome form of the Lord, and he's offering this prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam. So Bhagavate is the Lord. Om Namo is a way of invoking the Lord. And Om, I invoke, I offer obeisances. And unto you, O Lord, Bhagavate Tubhyam. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam. Purushaya Mahatmane. Purushaya Mahatmane. So Purushaya is, you are the supreme person. You're not just an abstract light, all-pervasive light. You are a person. And you're not an ordinary person. Mahatmane. You're a great person. Purushaya Mahatmane. Purushaya Mahatmane. Then what is the speciality of this person? Haraye Adbhuta Simhaya. So Haraye, he is the Supreme Lord Hari, who steals away our distresses from this world. And he is come in the form of a wonderful leonine form, like a lion. Adbhuta Simhaya. Haraye Adbhuta Simhaya. Haraye Adbhuta Simhaya. And while beholding this Lord, he is remembering that who is this being? Brahmane Paramatmane. Brahmane Paramatmane. He is also that all-pervading divinity who is the very substratum of all of existence. And he is also the indwelling divinity within all of us, who is actually the guide and witness and companion for everyone. So let's recite. So Brahmane Paramatmane. Brahmane Paramatmane. So let's prayerfully recite this verse together 3 times. Not responsively, but together. We'll all do it together. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane. Hare Adbhuta Simhaya. Brahmane Paramatmane. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane. Hare Adbhuta Simhaya. Brahmane Paramatmane. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane. Hare Adbhuta Simhaya. Brahmane Paramatmane. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjalishalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Saraswati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm grateful to be here with all of you today, and we will be discussing a story of divine love. And let's begin by an exercise of visualization. If we had a time machine by which we could travel thousands and thousands of years into the past, let's try to go to the place where the momentous event of the appearance of Lord Narasimhadeva occurs. So, we use this time machine, and the time when the Lord has appeared, let us zero in on the incidents that happened just before that and leading to his appearance and the events thereafter. So we find ourselves zooming in a majestic kingdom with incredible levels of power and prosperity. Within that we zoom in to the royal palace. That is the summum bonum, the best in everything that is there, not just in the kingdom but in all the three worlds. And within that royal arena is a magnificent court. And in that court, there is a king who is sitting, whose very being exudes power, whose very face shows such absolute authority that even the strongest of people would tremble on beholding a frown on that face. And surrounding that king who is exuding immense power are many generals and ministers who are sitting on their smaller thrones. Every one of them is a mighty warrior, and the atmosphere in this place, as we behold the expressions of everyone, seems to be incredibly tense. It's almost as if everybody is ready for fight, springing into action, but just holding themselves back. It's when a major enemy is about to attack and the war is only a few moments away from beginning. It is that level of tension. You can almost cut through the tension. You can feel it as we observe that. And yet, the mysterious thing is, there seems to be no enemy at all. Why is everyone so alarmed, so angered? And then, as we look carefully, we notice that right in front of the king is one small boy with a sweet, innocent, pleasant face, bright eyes, and in sharp contrast to the brightness and cheerfulness of this small boy is the darkness and the rage of the glances that are coming out at him from everyone else. What might have happened that had made all these people so worked up about this tiny boy? And what is it that this boy could have done? And then as we observe and try to make sense, suddenly the boy speaks something. And when that boy speaks, that speech seems to be like releasing the spring that has held that anger in tension. The king jumps up in rage, charges up to this boy, glares at him as if he could bore a hole through his body with his eyes, and roars in anger And yet the boy remains utterly unfazed. Every word this boy is speaking seems to be increasing the anger. And as we observe, we start getting a better sense of what is actually happening. This small boy is, who is he? Prahlad. Who is the person who is so angry with him? Hiranyakashipu. And Prahlad is a very friendly, cheerful kind of boy. But is he completely oblivious? Is he socially clueless? That everybody is so angry and he seems to be speaking words that are making everyone, especially this king, angrier. There are some people, they, when anger is there in someone, and when people speak something that increases the anger, it could be because they are reckless. They just don't care. Some people just incite others for the sake of inciting others. Otherwise, they could be clueless. They just don't know that the other person is angry. Now, is Prahlad clueless? Is Prahlad reckless? What is he trying to do? So, if we were to move backwards, there is a huge tension over here. Prahlad is just a tiny little boy. Hiranyakashipu is a mighty king. And he is not just the king of that particular kingdom, he is the king of the universe. And he is also the father of Prahlad. And Prahlad, his devotion seems to be some other being, that is Vishnu. And here this interaction is going on between these two people, but there is an invisible interaction that is going on between Prahlad and the Lord. And this is the moment when that invisible interaction is going to become visible. When a dramatic change is going to happen. Hiranyakashipu has been used to having unchallenged power for a long, long time. Many people have a lot of ego. Now, what does ego do? Ego basically edges God out. When there is ego, then we place ourselves at the center of the universe. Ishvaro aham aham bhogi, siddho aham balvan sukhi. A person starts thinking that I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am God. And this has been the belief of Hiranyakashipu. And because of that, when he has unchallenged authority, he just cannot tolerate anyone challenging his authority. There are people who have ego, and often the opposite of ego is thought to be humility. But it is not that simple. This is a bilateral vision. And there is some truth to it, but the more correct holistic understanding is trilateral. That there is ego on one side of the pendulum, and there is insecurity on the other side of the pendulum. So ego is basically, I am everything, I can do everything. That is basically I am God. So I can do everything. And insecurity is the other opposite. I can do nothing. And in between the two is humility. Humility is where I can do some things. And therefore, I am something. So the idea is that the Bhagavad Gita says we are all parts of God. Mamaivam sho jiva loke. That we are all amshas, we are all parts of God. And therefore, as parts of God, we all have capacity to do some things. So ego is one extreme of illusion and insecurity is the other extreme of illusion. So we often see this psychology that everybody in life will get disrespected at times. That's just the way of life. But some people, when they are disrespected, they just get enraged. And not just enraged, they become disproportionately enraged. And enraged to the point of becoming destructive. So now, why does it happen? Hiranyakashipu had the whole universe going down to him. He had even the great gods whom humans venerate and appease for getting benedictions. All those great celestial administrators were going down to him. And one small boy didn't respect him. Actually, Prahlad also respected him, but just not the way Hiranyakashipu wanted. Prahlad was never arrogant, was never rude. Prahlad was always polite. But Prahlad was not ready to make Hiranyakashipu the object of worship. And that led him to such fury that he had tried to kill Prahlad. If you don't respect me, I will destroy you. So why would somebody go to such extremes? While ego and insecurity are two opposites, and we often feel that a lot of people have a lot of ego, pride, arrogance. See, the word pride nowadays has got a more positive connotation. That is, there's places like Hotel Pride. I have traveled across the world. I haven't seen any hotel arrogance till now, or for that matter, hotel ego. But so there is this thinking that I am great. That ego is there. But for many people, that what they call as, well, there are people who have ego. For many people, that ego is a facade to hide their insecurity. That means insecurity is the less they respect themselves. The less they respect themselves, the more they demand that others respect them. So their demand for others to respect them is a way to compensate, to cover for their own lack of respect for themselves. And when this happens, when a person is rapidly oscillating between private insecurity, when they are alone, hey, I'm not good enough, maybe others are better than me. And then public ego. Everybody has to see and acknowledge and applaud how great I am. So such people, when they are not respected. So what happens for them is, they just can't tolerate it. People who have, even from a material perspective, genuine pride. Somebody is a good musician, somebody is a good writer, somebody is a good speaker, somebody is a good manager. They may have some pride that I am good at this. And if somebody criticizes them, they feel bad. But okay, you don't understand the complexity of what is going on, what I am doing. And I don't really care. So I have a friend who's an author. He told me, he's a scientist. He said that, I know I don't take criticism from people who are not scientists very seriously. He said, I can take inputs from them if I'm not communicating my points clearly. But, so they don't really become, they're not petty. As they say, the dogs may bark, but What is the saying? Anyone knows? Yes, the dogs may bark, but the caravan rolls on. Which is 1930s saying. Prabhupada would quote it, so it may not be so well known nowadays. But the idea is, people who have in one sense, is to some extent a little real pride. Krishna talks about in 13.8, two kinds. That there is humility, amanitvam, and there is adambhitvam. So there are people who are proud of what they have. That is mana. Krishna says, don't be proud even of these things. But adambhitvam is proud of what we don't have. That means what we pretend to have. What we believe that like somebody is very poor but they want to go to a wedding and they want to portray as if they are very rich. So they buy a dress from Amazon, wear the dress and return it after the wedding gets over. And during the wedding they appear as if they are very wealthy. So it's a way of pretending. So such people are very insecure. So Hiranyakashipu's disproportionate rage at this small child who is not respecting him the way he wants is because of this. He is just not ready to accept that this child, how can he not respect me? Now when this happens, he challenges. He says, on whose power, on the basis of whose power are you opposing me? If a small kid is standing up to a bully, then we may naturally get the question, even the bully has the question, no, you cannot fight against me, how are you fighting against me? So now, Prahlad could have given a straight answer. He says, I have faith in Vishnu. Could have said, I am standing by Vishnu's strength. That was a reality. But Prahlad seems to speak this reality in a way that enrages Hiranyakashipu. What does he say? He says, Balam balinam cha parisham. It's a beautiful verse which I won't go into. But basically, he is challenging Hiranyakashipu's conception of God. There are two conceptions of God broadly. God is the best of all beings. So in this conception, what is there? There's a hierarchy. Say, I have some power, you have some more power than me. There are people who have a lot of power and there's a hierarchy like that. And wherever this hierarchy ends, at the top of it is God. So God is the best of all beings. Now this idea is like, say, it is a very competitive vision of God. Say in a tennis event or in general tennis, there might be one player who is the number one. That person is the best. But tomorrow, if some other player plays better, gains greater skills, gains greater points, wins more, then that player can become the number one. So this idea, Hiranyakashipu has this idea of Vishnu. He says Vishnu is extremely powerful, but he's just one in the hierarchy. And Hiranyakashipu's idea is, if I perform enough austerities, if I destroy the sources of power of Vishnu, if I stop the sacrifices, if I persecute and eliminate the people who are worshipping Vishnu, then his strength will be lost. And then I can defeat him. And operating in this notion, he has been searching for Vishnu everywhere. And when he's searching for Vishnu, he's not been able to find him. And when that happens, when people have an ego, they often interpret reality in a way that substantiates their vision. He says, I traveled across the universe, I couldn't find Vishnu. What does this mean? Vishnu is afraid of me. And that's why he is in hiding. He's a coward. and therefore I have won. That was his idea. Now, Prahlad replies by telling him that the source of my power, the source of your power, the source of even Brahmaji's power, who has given you blessings and who has therefore given you power, the source of everyone's power is one. That is the Supreme Lord. That is Vishnu. So what he's saying is, God is not, this is one way of looking at God, but God is not just the best of all beings, He is the basis of all being. Basis of all being means that God exists, there is hierarchy no doubt in this world. There is the hierarchy of many beings, some being more powerful than others. But God exists in a different category. This hierarchy does not reach to Him. There is an unfathomable and unscalable chasm between the two. So God doesn't just exist above everyone, but God also exists under everyone. He is the person who is the strength of every person. Whoever has whatever level of strength, it all comes from God. So, God is the basis of all being. So we may have some beauty, we may have some speaking ability, we may have some singing ability, and others may have something better. But everyone's ability comes from the Lord. And this, why is he speaking this? This is a deep philosophical point. And when Hiranyakashipu is so angry, when somebody is angry, you try to calm them down. You don't speak philosophy. And that too complex philosophy. But he's making a point over here. 2 verses later he says, you are thinking that Vishnu is your enemy, but Vishnu is no one's enemy. He is the well-wisher of everyone. Your only enemy is your uncontrolled and misguided mind. The uncontrolled mind thinks that those who have more power than me, they are happier than me. It could be power. For different people, it could be different things. If somebody has more IQ than me, students may think, oh, that person is happier than me. Somebody is fairer than me. Somebody is slimmer than me. Somebody is wealthier than me. Somebody has more Instagram followers than me. That person is happier than me. So the uncontrolled mind imagines that those who are higher up in the hierarchy, they are happier than me. And therefore the misguided mind is, the next step is, I just have to get up the hierarchy some way or the other. And if I get to the top of the hierarchy, then I will be happy. So now yes, we all can excel and we all can improve in whatever field we are in. We can get to the top. We'll talk about that a little later. But the point is, just getting to the top won't make us happy. It is linking with the one who is always at the top. In a mode of devotion. That is what is going to make us happy. So the enemy is, we may not think of God as our enemy, but we may think of fate as our enemy. We may think of situations as our enemy. If we are teenagers, we may think of parents as our enemy. But whoever it is, actually our enemy is our uncontrolled, and what is the other thing? What is the second characteristic of the mind that makes its enemy? Misguided. Uncontrolled is, it just thinks, oh, if only I get more of that, I'll become happy. And misguided is, any way I can get it, I'll get it. So Prahlad has earlier told Hiranyakashipu, and the Bhagavatam also mentions that, although he has conquered all the directions, yet he is not happy. So, now when he speaks this, he is trying to give good advice. But Hiranyakashipu is not in a mood to hear advice. So what happens is, this is a big problem. There is advice and there is vice. So what happens is, for those who have vice, they just remove the ad part from it. So all that remains is vice. So advice only increases their vice. So he says, you think Vishnu is more powerful than me? Let us settle it for today finally. Where is your Vishnu? I will destroy him. Now Hiranyakashipu could have destroyed Prahlad itself. Before that he had decided to kill Prahlad, but he had not killed him himself. He had tried to get his demons, his associates, they all to try to assassinate him. But why had he done that? He wanted to show that, I don't need to kill him. My people are good enough to do that. But now, he was so angry with Prahlad, he could have killed Prahlad. But for him, he wanted to first destroy Prahlad's faith. He says, you think Vishnu is more powerful than me? I will show you who is really powerful. First, I will destroy Vishnu, and then I will destroy you. And that is why he asked, where is Vishnu? And he asked, Vishnu is everywhere. Now, Hiranyakashipu has actually searched for Vishnu everywhere. He has not found him anywhere. So when somebody has a lot of anger, they have to express their anger somewhere. That's why when people get very angry, they might go to a boxing ring and find a punching bag, and they punch the punching bag. Now, of course, some people who can't find a punching bag, they make someone a punching bag. That is deadly. But the point is, now he wants to express his anger somewhere. So he says, is he in this pillar? When he points to a pillar, he just is so angry, he has to beat something, wants to destroy something. And Prahlad says, yes, of course he's in the pillar. And Hiranyakashipu charges for Khadgam Prakriya. He slams that pillar with his axe. And that pillar cracks apart. And he wants to demonstrate his strength. How powerful I am, that by one blow, I can destroy a whole pillar. But while he is trying to demonstrate his power, someone else demonstrates their power. Who is that? Narasimhadeva. Satyam vidhatum nijavritya bhashitam. That Lord appears. Suddenly, when he slams the pillar, naturally the pillar breaking creates a sound. But that sound is soon overshadowed by such a fearsome roar that everybody in the assembly is first deafened. But they're not just deafened, they are deafened to such an extent they just can't hear anything except the sound of that roar. But it's so scary. Sometimes there's a deafening applause. Sometimes there's deafening criticism. But this is like a deafening danger. Whoever is roaring like that is so angry. Okay. Sometimes by the tone of a person you can know how angry they are. And this roar itself is so deafening that nobody can face it. And everybody closes their eyes. And even Hiranyakashipu is forced to close his eyes. But then he opens his eyes. And when he opens them, he sees a massive being stepping out from that pillar. Hiranyakashipu himself is huge. But this being dwarfs him. Hiranyakashipu has a huge palace. The ceiling goes way up. But this being towers above. Just dwarfing everyone. Shri Narasimhadeva Bhagwan ki. So Hiranyakashipu sees this. He's trying to figure out, who is this? Is this some freak? Oh, some being who has just put on a costume? Some being who has just... He knows that there are shape-shifting monsters, or people have shape-shifting abilities. He says, who is this being who has shifted his form and taken on this form? Okay, it is not a big form, but I am stronger. He's sizing up this being. And then he charges forward. Narasimhadeva is so angry that as Hiranyakashipu charges forward, everybody is awestruck to see how fearless Hiranyakashipu is. He's charging forward, and Narasimhadeva simply just takes one hand and grabs him. And he grabs him and starts crushing him. And it's like, this is the moment, this is like the climax. Like the big fight is about to happen, and the big fight is about to happen. It seems that the fight is about to end without starting also. Narasimhadeva seems to be out to crush Hiranyakashipu. And then Hiranyakashipu is trying desperately to wiggle his way out, to free himself. He has got a sword. He's trying to swing the sword, but he's caught so tightly, he's not able to do anything. And then as Narasimhadeva is about to crush, then suddenly he swings his sword around and he finds himself released. Now, demons, they are very expert at taking credit for things they have not done. So, actually, Narasimhadeva releases him. Narasimhadeva initially is so angry that he just wants to destroy Hiranyakashipu immediately. But even in that anger, he remembers that Brahmaji has given a benediction to him, that he cannot be killed in day or night. He cannot be killed by a human being or an animal. He cannot be killed inside a house or outside the house. So now Narasimhadeva has taken a form which is half man, half lion, and full god. He is a majestic form, but he starts playing with Hiranyakashipu. He is waiting for the time. And he is when twilight will occur. Twilight is the time when it is neither day nor night. Many times, people try to, whenever some rules are made, whenever some terms are applied, so people try to find loopholes to get around those terms, to get around those rules. One of my friends worked in insurance, and he said, one of the training I got was he said, I was very disturbed by that training, but he says that whenever some insurance claims come, you have to find every single loophole by which you can avoid paying the insurance. So, somebody, if there is a rule and they can get around the rule and they can get away with it, they think they are very clever. But the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita says, Dyutam Chalayatam Asmi. Among cheaters, I am the greatest cheater. So Narasimhadeva, as God, is the ultimate loophole finder. So Hiranyakashipu has thought that I have got a foolproof way to get immortality. But Narasimhadeva plays with him. And Hiranyakashipu thinks, yeah, he is big, but he's not smart. He says, I can outsmart him. I can outwit him. I can outrace him. He's big, but he's unwieldy. He is not very fast. So Hiranyakashipu is darting in, attacking, getting away, again darting in, attacking. And he is thinking that he is getting the better of Hiranyakashipu. See, so many times I have attacked him, I have wounded him, and he has not been able to do anything to me. And then, finally, as it becomes twilight, Narasimhadeva just catches Hiranyakashipu. And after catching him, he drags him along. He catches him, forces him on his laps, and then drags him helplessly towards the doorsill. And he sits on that doorsill. And now what Hiranyakashipu wanted to do to Prahlad earlier, that is the very thing that Narasimhadev does to Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu wanted to destroy Prahlad's conviction before destroying him. And Narasimhadev does that to him. You think that you are stronger than me? No, I am stronger than you. You think you are smarter than me? No, I am smarter than you. You think you are faster than me? No, I am faster than you. So for somebody who is powerful to be bested at the very area where they are good at, that is the ultimate pain. And Hiranyakashipu sees that and just can't do anything. And as he's being dragged to the doorsill, he looks around and he sees his twilight. And that's when he realizes that now death has come. Not only has been overpowered, not has been only been outpaced, now he has been outsmarted. That this being is neither a human nor an animal. All his conditions will be satisfied and still he will be killed. So, when Narasimhadev kills Hiranyakashipu, he is destroying him. What he does is, it's a surgery. The surgery is where operation successful, patient liberated. So that's what becomes transcendent. The patient is liberated. But then, things go on over here. So I'll talk about two more key points over here. That this is what has Prahlad done for Hiranyakashipu, for Narasimhadev, what has Narasimhadev done for Prahlad. So, we see Prahlad is here. Now Hiranyakashipu is this giant being. Now he has become a shapeless lump of mass. But now there are the various devatas over here. Brahma is there, Indra is there. And then above them all is Narasimhadev. So this is a story of love between Prahlad and Narasimhadev. Prahlad shows his love for Narasimhadev and Narasimhadev shows his love for Prahlad. And that love is also seen in how Prahlad deals with the devatas and how Prahlad deals with Hiranyakashipu. And Narasimhadev's love is also seen in how he deals with the devatas and how he deals with Hiranyakashipu. So now Prahlad's love for the Lord. See, the love for the Lord is no relationship actually exists in isolation. We may have a relationship with someone, but we live in a society. So that relationship is also expressed in how we interact with others. So Prahlad goes very far. He is fearless with Hiranyakashipu. He is fearless with Hiranyakashipu. He is absorbed in the Lord and he is respectful towards the devatas. And each of these is actually an expression of his devotion. So later on the devatas will offer prayers to Narasimhadev to satisfy him. And Indra says, my dear Lord, till now because of Hiranyakashipu's demoniac activities, our heart was filled with fear. We were constantly so scared of what he would do that we just couldn't focus on you. We couldn't worship you. Now that you have killed him, we will resume our worship. So, Prahlad doesn't say this. Prahlad's heart is not swayed. Why is that? Because the test of serious devotion. Now, anybody can claim to be serious devotee, a spiritually advanced person. But what happens is there are neophytes and there are seers. So for the neophytes, the world is very big and God is quite small. That what happens in the world is the most important thing. And God, yeah, He exists, but it doesn't really matter. But for those who are great saints and seers, for them the world is a small thing and God is the really big reality. So, now these people, the neophytes, they're not atheists. They also believe in God. But within their consciousness, God is quite small. The world is very big. So if we compare these two, where does Indra fall and where does Prahlad fall? Where would Indra be? Would Indra be the seer? No. Who is the seer? Prahlad. So Indra is the person who is, he says, as long as there are problems in the world, okay, first I'll solve the problem, or God, you solve the problems for me, then I'll worship you. So such people are not Krishna conscious, they are problem conscious. And for them the problem becomes much bigger than God. Yes, our problems can be big, but God always remains bigger than the biggest problems. So Indra, he's also devoted, but his devotion is big. Now is weak. Now what determines whether the world is big or God is big in our consciousness? That is determined, both is determined by our attachments. If our attachment is to the world, then the world becomes very big. And what happens in the world affects us a lot. If our attachment to the Lord is big, the Lord becomes big in our consciousness. So, Prahlad is exemplifying the greatness of his devotion. And therefore, when there is a threat for him from Hiranyakashipu, that threat does not shake him. We all may face problems in our lives. Now, many of the problems come because of people around us. Many problems come because sometimes we ourselves are careless or we ourselves make mistakes. But if the problem comes because of our devotion itself, say if we know our boss is troubling us a lot, and the boss may be troubling us because we are disagreeable, because the boss is disagreeable, the boss is tyrannical, it's disturbing. But if we are spiritually minded and our boss is troubling us because of our spirituality, because of our devotion, and there are no laws for protecting against religious discrimination or whatever, then naturally we would start thinking, I came to God to solve my problems, now God has become my problem. Isn't it? So, if my devotion to God has become my problem, why should I even worship God? So, this is the greatness of Prahlad's devotion. That even when his very devotion seems to have become the cause of his problems, at that time also he stays firm in his devotion. And for this to happen, there is a external benefit when we have devotion. Devotion offers us some external benefits and something internal. The external is whenever we pray to God, God intervenes in some ways, God guides us in some ways, and our problems get solved. So the external is problem solution. That is the benefit of serving God. Yes, we pray, problems can be solved. But the internal is a higher satisfaction. And that satisfaction becomes so deep and so rich and so sweet that even if the problems remain, it doesn't matter so much. So Prahlad, for him this internal satisfaction is so much greater that it doesn't matter for him. And while he is having this devotion, Now, what has happened from his side is, we're talking about, he's fearless in the face of the world, in the face of danger in the world, because he's absorbed in the Lord. Now, generally, the world can allure us, can take us away from God in two ways. There are two main distractions. One is pleasure, and the other is pain. Or you can say more precisely, it is the promise of pleasure and the threat of pain. Both of these can distract us from God. So from Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad got the threat of pain. Not just threat of pain, but actual pain. And still Prahlad remained firm, unshaken. Now on the other side, the greatness of Prahlad's devotion is seen in his moment of glory. I said I'll conclude with one more point. Now Narasimhadeva is extremely angry even now. From Narasimhadeva, his anger, his emotions are shown, we can say, by an acronym AID. There is anger towards Hiranyakashipu, and that we saw. And that anger is an expression of love. When we care for someone, if that person is hurt or threatened to be hurt, we naturally feel anger. And if we don't feel anger, then, well, there may not be really a deep love over there. Now, how to express that anger is up to us. As to wisdom is required. But after that, there is indifference toward the Devatas. The Devatas come and try to pacify the Lord with prayers, and the Lord doesn't care at all. Why does he not care? That indifference is also an expression of his love. He's saying, now you are offering me sweet praises, but when Prahlad was in danger, you didn't protect him, you didn't even protest. So, what is the use of your prayers now? So, our devotion, our expression of our devotion can't exist in a vacuum. If those whom the Lord loves, if they are in trouble, and we don't help, and then we go and offer nice prayers to the Lord. If say some devotee is in distress, if say in our community some devotee is sick and they need some help, and he say, okay, I'll come and I have nice prayers and I don't care for that devotee. Then the Lord will not really be pleased with our prayers. So he is indifferent. That is also an expression of his love. He is displeased. But the last is, towards Prahlad, there is delight. As soon as Prahlad starts offering prayers, what happens? That Lord who is roaring like a lion looks down, sees Prahlad and starts purring like a cat. It's a complete change of mood. It's as if he was never angry only. So he was really angry. And from that great anger, the sudden change of mood towards joy, that actually shows the depth of the love. Sometimes some people suddenly change from anger to pleasure. That means they were just faking anger before. Or they are faking pleasure now. But actually if somebody is changing, that means the source of the love, oh, you are here, I'm so happy that nothing else matters. So that Prahlad's devotion is so great, the Lord is delighted to see him. And this is the moment of the greatest glory of Prahlad. He has stood firm under the threat of Hiranyakashipu. Now, the Devatas have not been able to do something. And he has done it. He is a small child. This is the moment when he can be proud. He can succeed and be at the top in the game of one-upsmanship. I am better than everyone else. And his devotion is seen in his capacity to resist the temptation. So with Hiranyakashipu, there was a threat of pain. With the Devatas, there was the pleasure he could have had. See, I am better than all of you. None of you have that devotion. I achieved something which you could not achieve. But Prahlad does not do that. His very first prayer that he offers, Brahmadaya Sumunaya Surganotha Siddha. Very beautiful prayers. We don't have time for going into those prayers. But he says that they're all great souls. And I am Ugra Jate. I am born in a low family. But how is it that their prayers didn't satisfy you, but my prayers satisfy you? It is because of devotion, he later says. And then he doesn't say, I am a greater devotee. He says, it is because Narad Muni has blessed me with devotion. It is because you, O Lord, are so pleased with devotion. So he turns the moment of his glorification into a moment of the Lord's glorification and the glorification of Bhakti. And this really shows for him that neither pleasure nor pain can be distractions. He is completely absorbed in the Lord. That Lord Narasimhadeva who came to protect Prahlad Maharaj, that Lord Narasimhadeva who was hidden in the pillar, that Lord is hidden in our own heart also. To the extent we strive to make the Lord the bigger reality in our lives, to that extent we will start perceiving His love. The Lord, when the world is a bigger reality for us, what happens is we can't perceive His love. The Lord is close to our heart, and our heart is closed to Him. Unfortunately, we want to open our heart. So when we come to satsang like this, when we come to festivals like this, when we hear about these extraordinary pastimes, they remind us that the Lord is the biggest reality. Yes, we have our problems in life, we have our hopes for success and happiness in life, and yes, we need to deal with them, all that. But let not any of these overshadow our connection with the Lord. The more we make Krishna the biggest reality in our life, the more we will find that He is always there in our heart. The more we'll find His presence, His love, and His purpose permeating our entire being, enriching our life, and filling us with a sublime satisfaction. That is the example that Prahlad Maharaj has demonstrated, and that is the inspiration that we all can seek through prayerful devotion on this sacred day, when this divine exchange of love between the Lord in an extraordinarily unprecedented form and the devotee in an extraordinarily insignificant form, they had this reciprocation of love. And that is a love which is available for each one of us even today. I quickly summarize. I made 3 main points today. We started first by discussing about who is God. Through Prahlad's, our whole theme was the theme of divine love as demonstrated through this pastime. And so who is God? God is not just the best of all beings. He is the basis of all being. So rather than trying to simply become better than someone else, we try to connect with God. And that was what Prahlad was trying to communicate to Hiranyakashipu. But he was just not ready to listen to it. Then we discussed about the exchange of love. So Prahlad's love for the Lord is seen by how far he goes in his love. Far is, he is completely fearless of his Father. Why is he fearless? Because he is absorbed in the Lord. For him, the Lord is the bigger reality. And because the Lord is the bigger reality for him, so he remains respectful for the Devatas. That even when, so there is pleasure and pain, both of them can be temptations, can be distractions. And he is not distracted by either. And the Lord's love for Prahlad is seen by how he comes to the aid of the Lord, aid of his devotee. So A was his anger towards Hiranyakashipu. Such is the richness of love. There are many, many emotions which all ornament bhakti, ornament this divine love. His indifference towards the Devatas. That also is an expression of his love. and his delight, his sudden change in his mood on seeing, beholding Prahlad, that is also an expression of his love. So this is the richness of divine love. It is filled with many sublime and varying emotions. And that richness of divine love is available for each one of us. If we immerse ourselves in the pastimes of the Lord and seek the mercy of Narasimhadeva and Prahlad on this holy day. Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki Narasimhadeva Bhagwan ki Shri Narasimha Chaturdashi Mahamahotsav ki Srila Prabhupada ki